But yeah, thanks a lot. This is a very exciting conversation. We're really happy that we're starting out our town hall series by looking at a very glaring example of, effective long-term planning and national visioning. And we're very happy that Habes has, given us this evening on this Saturday to come share a bit more about the work he's doing at Qatar Foundation and also some lessons as well from the Qatar National Vision. So I would do a quick introduction. You notice that you're not able to unmute. That's because we put a setting so that we can control how people come up to speak. But the mics will be open during the open mic session when people will be able to ask questions or give feedback based on the questions that you might have for Habes during that time. But I'll do a quick introduction of what the Rivers 2050 Vision project is quickly, and also speak a bit about why we're looking at Qatar and some of the things that we look forward to learning from this conversation. So just put my slides up. Yeah. Okay, and this again will be for the benefit of those in the international community who might have joined us or who will be watching the recording. Rivers State, Nigeria is located in the southern region of Nigeria, home to approximately 9 million people with a landmass of 11,000 square kilometers. Up to 40%, some people even say as much as 50 to 60% of Nigeria's output of crude oil and gas resources is from the state, River State. And the state also is rich in other minerals and natural resources like silica, glass, clay, and a very fertile soil, to mention a few. But the sad thing is that most of these resources, apart from oil and gas, are mostly untapped. And despite this abundance, Rivers people are not seeing the dividends of democracy, right? The last time that the state had a development vision itself was as far back as the 1970s. Actually, it was 1975 to 1980, and it was in this month, as far back as 50 years ago, that we had a development plan last. So over the past 50 years, we've had sort of like a choppy and haphazard approach to governance, which is often led by the vision of whoever is in office. But we think that there's a need for a more coordinated approach to development. And that's why the Rivers 2050 Vision project had come up. The state is currently in political crisis. There was a declaration of a state of emergency by the president on March 18, and so the governor and the State House of Assembly is sacked. Currently, they're suspended, and they're suspended for a period of six months. And I mean, all of us on the project, and those of us also from Rivers State, are hoping that that suspension will be lifted soon, so that normalcy can return and the state can come back to a democracy. So the engagement plan for the Rivers 2050 Vision is as follows. We've set up the task force, ensuring that this is youth-driven. So we have over 100 young people from within Rivers State and outside Rivers State who care about this project and actually also believe with us at Policy Shapers that the state is due for a vision, for a plan. And so that task force then becomes like the sounding board for which every other project, every other activity under this project is built. After that, we've launched a statewide survey that's currently ongoing, both online, and we're going to kick off offline engagement soon. The idea of the survey is that it's going to be viral. It's going to give Rivers people and those people who are also not from Rivers State but are based here in the States a chance to sort of include their visions, their thoughts, their ideas for what the next 25 years of development should be like for the state. We're going to launch focus group discussions starting next month. We have the first two on healthcare and then on media and entertainment. And we're going to have the 15 focus group discussions led by experts from, again, within and outside Rivers State, talking about the current status of things within those sectors and what can be done to sort of move things forward. After that, we're then going to have key informal interviews, which we have then launched today and started with the conversation we're going to have shortly with Mr. Habes And we're making all of these things open to the general public so that Rivers indigenes, Nigerians can get a chance to come in and also take part in these conversations that we hope would create a new model of visioning in Nigeria. And the reason I say that is because the current model of visioning in the country is usually a top to bottom thing, where maybe an NGO or an organization engages with government, and maybe a political leader has an idea for a vision or a long-term plan, and that person then works with the NGO to come up with a plan, and then the plan is then sent down to the citizens. But we're saying, what happens if we turn the triangle on its head and have the citizens themselves, and in this case, young people, initiate the vision and sort of like chart the course for what they want to see over the next 25 years, and then have them work together with international partners, private sector, thematic experts, and then build that vision that is now sent to government as a citizen manifesto, as opposed to what we have before, which is the government sending it down to the citizens. So it's a hypothesis. The hypothesis is that citizens will own these vision documents more if it comes from them versus if it comes from the government. And this is the first time that we're trying this out. So let's see how it goes. If this turns out to be a model that actually works, we hope that we can replicate this as well in states across the country. So that's how we're thinking about disrupting the long-term planning model, the current model in the country. We're also using artificial intelligence to sort of like imagine the future in many ways. And so we've used ChatGPT over the past couple of months and trained ChatGPT about Rivers State and its characteristics. And ChatGPT has started to imagine what the various aspects of the states could be, whether it's transportation or the use of water transportation, because we have a lot of rivers, and that's one of the niche that's really untapped. Or even generating like energy through various means, natural gas and windmills and stuff, which something we're not doing currently, or even taking advantage of our coastline and developing like beaches and recreational center to foster tourism. So there's a huge opportunity for us to be able to leverage all of these things. And through this project, we hope that we can inspire the citizens to be able to speak more about these issues. All of the visual features, the people's voices, stories, the statewide survey data, the community ideas, expert insights, conversations we're going to have, like today's conversation with Habes, ideas and thoughts, would come into the Rivers 2050 Vision book, which will be the first of its kind, because it's going to be co-authored by citizens. We're figuring out how that's going to happen and how we're bringing everyone to the table on that. We have a committee led by young people who are in charge of this and are already working and are already writing the first few chapters of the book. And so that this book would serve as a citizen manifesto, not just for this year and next year, but for successive governments that would come into office, as a way to hold them to account and to continue to ask them to ensure that they deliver on the goods for the people. The book will be made accessible. It's not going to be paid for. It's going to be made accessible to students in libraries and schools, and also easily downloadable online to ensure that people can have access to this and can continue to demand and advocate for what they want in the state. The Rivers 2050 project is a project of Policy Shapers Limited. We are a civic tech organization, and our focus is on empowering young people with knowledge, skills, and tools to engage with public policy. Some of our other projects include things where people might know a bit more about us, like the Reform IELTS campaign, where we're challenging barriers for students who seek education online and abroad, who have to write English proficiency tests. And we've also done things like the Nigeria Policy Hackathon, which has been a policy lab for close to 800 young people to come ideate on policy ideas for the country. Okay, so the important part. So why are we looking to Qatar for inspiration? And after this part, then we'll introduce Habes, and then we'll go straight into the conversation. So this story actually goes as far back. Some of you might know the story, especially those who are in the task force. It goes as far back as November 2022. I was on my way to India for a work meeting, but I took Qatar Airways, so we stopped in Doha for a few hours before I continued my journey. And I mean, I heard so much about Qatar and the UAE and just the Gulf region, right? But I think just landing there for the first time really just challenged me, right? I started to think, it made me think a lot about the states, River States, and how fast Qatar has been able to develop and grow in a very short time. And I started to ask questions as to like, why are we not doing the same thing here? You know, if you put Qatar and Rivers State side by side, one is a country and one is a state, right? But in so many ways, they're very, very similar. Population-wise, Rivers State has a lot more population. There's about 9 million people, 9.5 million people in Rivers State. Qatar's population is somewhere around 2.7 million as of 2023. And the vast majority of that is actually expats, as Habes would get to speak a bit more about. Qatar is blessed with natural gas and petroleum, but it's currently in a very harsh climate. But River State does have crude oil and natural gas and silica and all the things I mentioned earlier. And if you even look at our landmass, we're very, very similar. Qatar is just about 500-ish, just 400-ish kilometers square bigger than us. So like physically, resource-wise, population-wise, we can actually put the two together side by side. But if you look at development across the two regions, I mean, Qatar is eons above. And I got to find out that the Qatar National Vision, has been one of the documents that led this country to sort of move really, really fast, and just that and the sheer will of leadership to be able to ensure that the vision is being implemented. So it led us to some questions. Within the task force, we've read the national vision, some people twice or thrice. It's a 40-page document. And I'm sure Habes, you should be ready for the questions that will come. But we've started to have a couple of questions. How is it possible to sort of grow rapidly, where you go from being a desert to being almost paradise, right? Where during the World Cup, so Qatar sort of like showcased its infrastructural development, massive infrastructural development in a very, very short time. So what is the secret to this particular kind of thing? How do you also build the 8th largest sovereign wealth fund in the world in less than 20 years, right? The Qatar Investment Authority has massive investments across major establishments around the world, whether it's like the Paris Saint-Germain or the Royal Dutch Shell or Barclays or Sainsbury or Volkswagen, etc., etc. So how do you build that in a very short time? And because most people often ask the question of Qatar being a country and Rivers State being a state, it might be one of the limitations as to why Rivers State hasn't grown, in that particular light. And so within the task force, we've been asking ourselves questions too. If you look at between 2009 and 2019, Rivers State received about $2.76 billion from the 13% derivation. So 13% derivation is a law in Nigeria, which brings profit sharing for states who have natural resources. And so the money, first of all, goes to the federal government, and the federal government then shares that proceeds. 13% of that profit to the states. And that's $2.76 billion within the same period where Qatar started their sovereign wealth fund in 2005, and within 20 years worth over $400 billion. So we said, if you have $2.7 billion, right, as a Rivers government, and you want to invest that, there are many ways which that money can be spent to help the states. Want to build healthcare centers alone, you'll be able to build over 1,800 healthcare centers. You'll be able to build over 2,500 kilometers of road. You'll be able to build over 40,000 classrooms at these particular costs. If you want to even go around the world and look at what are some projects that have been invested in with that amount of money, the Doha Metro, the Red Line, which was built especially for the World Cup, taking people from the airport all the way down to the Lusail Stadium, that has 18 stations and just cost only around $1 billion, right? The Bujagali hydropower project, which was done by Uganda, a 250 megawatts hydropower project, cost only about $900 million. So I could go on and on. Like Kigali is building a new city for about $1.2 billion. So that's still less than what we have received within an 11-year period. And so even if we're not a country, even as a state, we could have been able to invest all of that money. And so I think these are the kind of questions that we want to be asking ourselves and challenging ourselves. And the final question for Habes is, how do you also improve life expectancy in a region that is like characterized by violence, right? Because like the Middle East, Rivers State has seen its own fair share of violence, but the Middle East is a very hot region when it comes to like violent clashes and the issues that happened even post-Arab Spring. And it's funny to see that Qatar, despite that, has been able to increased his life expectancy from somewhere below 60 years in 1960 to now 81 years, which is almost 10 years higher than the global average. Rivers State's life expectancy currently is about 53.7 years. And so how do you improve this? Despite everything happening around you, what are some of the factors? What are some of the things that the Qatar Foundation also has been working on, especially relates to education, to ensure that people's lives have become better in a very short time? So without further ado, that's why we have Habes here to answer all of these questions that have been asked. Habes serves in the office of the Vice Chairperson and CEO at Qatar Foundation, where he leads strategic initiatives in government, engagement, institutional alignment, and cross-sector collaboration within the fields of education, research, and innovation. He plays a central role in advancing Qatar Foundation's contribution to the country's national vision and development strategies. Through his work in the strategic alignment department, he helps to ensure that Qatar Foundation's programs and partnerships are fully integrated and also integrated with national priorities, fostering synergies across various ministries, national entities, and also strategic sectors. He's currently pursuing a PhD in education, practice, and society at University College London, specializing in economics of higher education and human capital development, with a particular focus on Qatar's transition towards a knowledge-based economy. He has been recognized with the UK government's Alumni Award for Business and Innovation, and was also awarded first place in the Qatar National Entrepreneurship Award in 2020. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Habes to the conversation. I would give you the mic now. Let's see if you can unmute.
Unmuted. Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon from Doha. And I don't know what's the time now in Nigeria, but it's like good afternoon as well. I think it's just like 2 hours differences between us and you here. So first of all, I am both pleasure and honor to be with you today here to talk more about myself and the institution that I'm belonging to, Qatar Foundation, and also the country that I am citizen of, which is the state of Qatar.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm muted now. Thank you. thanks a lot for joining us. So I think we can go right into it. We don't want to keep you for too long. I think give us an idea of what it's like growing up in Qatar. We've seen that rapid growth and development, and I think everyone around the world is astounded by that. But as a person who was born in Qatar, what was growing up like in the country of Qatar like for you?
So let me to begin. Like I am lucky enough to born before the entire development that take place in Qatar. So I born in 1987, and back then Qatar is a small state with a smaller nation and young nation as well, and with young leadership, which is something that I would like to emphasize on, comparing with the other GCC country. And throughout the years, we start seeing the development that happened in Qatar. It started in a smaller steps and slowly transformation until the year of 1995. And the year of 1995, it's exceptional in the history of Qatar, when His Highness the Father Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, he become the Emir of Qatar, and he start transforming Qatar from Qatar in the past to Qatar in the future. And I think we were lucky in the state of Qatar to have a president like Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, and I will highly recommend you all to read more about this legend who came with the visionary leadership and with 2 things. He loved his country so much, and also he was committed to do a lot for his country. And this is what like we are extremely appreciating His Highness the Father Emir. And the year of 1995 as well, it was the year where Qatar Foundation was established as an institution. which is considered as one of the first, largest, oldest NGOs in the entire Gulf states. And Qatar Foundation, it has been founded by His Highness the Father Amir and his wife, the former First Lady of Qatar, Sheikh Moza bint Nasser, our chairperson. And the mission of this foundation of how could we transform Qatar to become to support the Qatar journey to become a knowledge-based society, and also to transform our economy into a knowledge-based economy. And through the effort that Qatar Foundation has been offered to the state of Qatar, we start seeing the transformation not happening on the education sector only, but across the different sectors. But let me to begin. Also, while Qatar Foundation was developed in terms of the approach that we do, the state of Qatar was developed as well. So Qatar Foundation was founded in an era that we call it as the institutional era, when His Highness the Father Amir was creating and establishing the necessity institution that needed for the development of Qatar. And then we moved to the second era, which is the infrastructural era, when Qatar started receiving the revenue that came from the oil and gas, and to start pledging it into different streams. And one of them, the infrastructure that needed for the development of Qatar. And the third core mission, the third era, which is the synergy and collaboration, when we start connecting the dots between what happened in the national level, what happened in the institutional level, and how could we push for the national strategy. So when Qatar Foundation was founded, the first phase of the foundation was specialized and focuses on something we call it the pre-university education, where we started from one single school that has been founded in 1996, and it was the first IB schools that entered the Qatari market. And from one single school that has been owned by Qatar Foundation, now we overseen 13 schools that has been located in different geographic area in the state of Qatar. And through the pre-university education, we wasn't just focused on offering high quality education, but the most important things for us, and I think that also an important for a country like Nigeria, how the curriculum that will be offered by this school to be rooted to our culture, our identity, our heritage, to ensure the graduate from our schools, they feel belonging to the society. They feel proud about their society, and they feel and they want to give back to the society as well. And the good things with the pre-university education, it started with the belief that education for all, and we need to achieve the enrollment of the children across the primary schools, and then we moved until the secondary schools. And Qatar, one of the highest country in terms of the enrollment from the K to 12, across the K to 12, from the primary schools until the secondary. But the most important things also, we created different pathways that related for some of different segments from our society. Like one of them, we created the first of kind school that has been specialized for children with special need and autistic children in Qatar. And in Qatar, we believe of empowering every single citizen, no matter what kind of challenge that might hold them back from continue their education. But in the same time, also, we are proud of our chairman, Her Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser. She was the woman behind the International Day for Autism, to shift the international view of autism, to see it from a challenge to start seeing it as an opportunity. And since then, Qatar Foundation has been developed a full ecosystem to create a smooth pathway for autistic children in Qatar and autistic youth, to ensure we are provided them with high quality education that cater to their need, and then to build their skills in certain pathways to ensure they will have a decent life and decent work in Qatar. And moving to the second core mission area, which is very important for us here in Qatar, which is in 2003, both of His Highness and Her Highness, they launched the Education City, which is the flagship project of Qatar Foundation. And back then it was a pioneer and first of kind worldwide, because everyone was familiar with a university campus, but we are talking about Education City that has been home of 13 schools, 6 universities from US, 1 university from France, 1 university from UK, our homegrown university, 3 research institute, science and technology park, 15 community development center, from social to technology to arts, music, horses, and also include hospitals. And the education city as city, every day there is around 20,000 people who came to the education city for learning purposes, through work, through learning, through teaching, through innovation, etc. And when we are talking about the higher education, we are talking about, we built something that was unique worldwide, and still it's unique, which is we invited the best university on their field to have a branch campus here in Doha. And we didn't invite the entire university. We invited the colleges that consider as the best worldwide, such as Cornell, which is well known in different programs, but we specialize, we ask for the College of Medicine to open in Qatar in 2001. And also we invited Virginia Commonwealth that specialize in liberal art and design. And we invited Texas A&M School of Engineering to open in Doha in 2003. And we invited Carnegie Mellon for computer science, information system, biology, computing biology, and business administration in 2004. And also we invited Georgetown School of Foreign Affairs to open in Doha in 2005. And also we invited Northwestern School of Media and Journalism that has been open in Doha also in 2008. And in 2010, we invited University College London, my university that I am proud of, and that specialized on contributing to the culture and creative economy in Qatar. And in 2012, we invited HSC Paris, that is well known globally and specialized in providing the executive MBA in different pathways that related for building the next generation of CEO and leaders. And the last not least, of Hamad bin Khalifa University, the university that named with the name of the founder of Qatar, His Highness the Father Amir. And this university was so unique in a way that it was the first university worldwide that has been founded, the research institute and the research infrastructure, before building the university. Because our belief, we need Hamad bin Khalifa University to become a research-intensive university with entrepreneurial spirit. And any programs will be offered by Hamad bin Khalifa University will be integrated with the research mandate. And also it's associated with the Qatar Grand Challenges, whether if it's water security, energy security, sustainability, healthcare, etc. And Hamad bin Khalifa University is the bridge with the third core mission area, which is research, development, and innovation. And before I'm going there, let me to give you some of statistics and figures about the education city. In education city, 50% from our student population, they are a national student, Qatari student who interested to study here, and mostly from women's. So we created a smooth pathway for men and women in Qatar to continue their education, but more preferable for the women instead if they are traveling abroad. And the other 50% divided between two segments. The first segment, which is the resident in Qatar from more than 100 nationalities, those people who lived in Qatar from 20 years ago, they work with us in the development of Qatar. They work hard with us hand by hand to build the Qatar that everyone's seeing right now. And the other 25% from international students who choose to travel to Qatar to study in Qatar in these universities. And they are a representative from 102 countries worldwide. I think we reach out to most countries worldwide except Antarctica. And the unique things with the education city, if you are a student, you could benefit from the other university. You could study one major from one university and minor from the other university, which is not happening in the mother campus in the United States of America. And also you could have a cross registration from the other 8 university that has been based on the education city. And by the way, the time differences, or if you could move from one university to the other, it required you just 5 minutes walk from one campus to the others, which is in the United States of America, you are traveling by plane for 7 hours from one state to the others. And going to the third core mission area, which is research, development, and innovation. In 2005, both of His Highness and Her Highness, they developed the draw the ecosystem of research development and innovation that needed to be envisioned in Qatar to transform our economy into a knowledge-based economy. And back then, we developed several initiatives to fill the gap of the ecosystems. One of them founded and created the first of kind science and technology park in the entire MENA region, which is Qatar Science and Technology Park. And also we created a funding agency for all the research activities that operated independently, which is not similar some of the Arab countries or like even in the MENA region and Africa, which is most of the time the government fund for research and development associated with the government body, where the government body struggle with the bureaucracy and the delay. So we decided to create an independent funding agency to finance all the research activity that happen in Qatar. And also we created the 3 research institute, which is Qatar Biomedical Research Institute, Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute, and Qatar Computing Research Institute. And those research institutes, each one of them focus on some of the Qatar grand challenges like water security, energy security, solars, precisional health, cancer, diabetes, obesities, and other challenges. And these institutes are working closely with the national stakeholders like the Ministry of Telecommunication in Qatar, where the Qatar Computing Research Institute launched the national strategy of AI. And by leveraging the talented and the scientists, researchers, academics who are part from this institute to work with the government to shape the national strategy for AI. And also, few years after, those 3 research institutes has been moved to be part from the body of Hamad bin Khalifa University. So the university built into a strong research foundation to ensure also, as I mentioned to you, our university will become research intensive. And Hamad bin Khalifa University offered the first of kind programs in the entire MENA region, like the first Master of Cybersecurity in the region, the first Precisional Health and the Genome Study in the entire MENA region, and a Master and PhD level. And also they offer sustainable energy, sustainable environment, and other disciplines that related to the development of Qatar. But also we consider the Arab need and the regional need part from our need to ensure our campus will continue as an international campus where the talented from all over the world will travel to Qatar to continue their education. And one of the unique outcomes that came out from the research development and innovation of Qatar created the first genome project in the entire region. And not that, it was the 2nd or the 3rd genome project worldwide. So our genome project launched immediately after the genome of England and pre the genome of America. So just imagine a small state like Qatar with high investment in education and research development and innovation has been a stand for the scientific advancement and technology advancement, even when it comes to the large and large advanced economy like the United States of America. And this makes Qatar to become the scientific lab, not for the state of Qatar, but for the entire world, because the amount of investment that has been put in place for education, research, development, and innovation will enable Qatar one day to come up with a solution that needed for the entire world, whether if it's the medical care or like tablets, or whether if it's a technology that will affect the climate change or progressive education or etc. And the last not least, which is community development, which is the heart of everything that we do. And the most element that's important for us in the community development, which is Qatar National Library. And Qatar National Library also, I will highly recommend you to read more about it. It's one of the great achievements of the state of Qatar that opened in 2018. And Qatar National Library has been envisioning the future of libraries and bringing multiple libraries under one umbrella. But the most important things, not about the library that has been opened in 2018. In 1962, Qatar had the first public library in the entire Gulf region. And this shows how the leadership of Qatar strongly believe in education, believe in culture, believe in literature, believe in the human development. When the wealth came, it's accelerate the potential. But the beliefs has been embedded from 1957 when we created the first formal education in the state of Qatar. And since then, Qatar become an exceptional. And no matter how our countries are young and in terms of like the years and like the population, but also this gives Qatar a credibility to become more advanced worldwide in terms of like a different field. And also the other community development center, one of the World Cup stadium that part from the education city recently has been converted to become center of excellence for women and girls in sport to ensure, because Qatar Foundation in 2003 created or like provided the opportunity to create the first women engineers in the history of Qatar. Also, we are pushing the boundaries for more women to be empowered in different pathways, and sport one of them. And this is part of from the legacy of the World Cup. And also we created part from the education city for policy institute, which is something maybe interested to you, because we founded a center of education policies that has been founded in 2009 and have a flagship project summit, which is the World Innovation Summit for Education WISE, which is one of the international summit that pushing the boundaries for embedded the innovation into the heart of education. And also they have several programs that has been designed for youth from all over the world, not for Qatar, but any youth who's interested in education could be part from the Learner Voice and the other programs of like the WISE Accelerator to push more edutech companies in the entire region. And also we created a similar model of like a center that's specialized on the health policies. And also they have their flagship summit, which is the World Innovation Summit for Health, WISH. So we have WISE and WISH, and both of them specialize in pushing the boundaries for innovation to transform those two sectors that very important, not for the state of Qatar, but for any countries worldwide. And also we created the third center that has been specialized in sustainability in hot and arid spaces, which is similar to our geographic area, that's called Earthana. And Earthana meant to lead the dialogue and conversation when it comes to the sustainability and climate change in the hot and arid spaces, not in Qatar only, but worldwide. And the most important things, multiple things has been associated with the hot and arid spaces, like the water challenge, the food security, other challenges. And here, like we are pushing for evidence-based policies, recommendation, innovation that will support the countries that has been located geographically in the hot and arid spaces. How could they interfere and they develop their ecosystems that around them to ensure they are sustainable cities, sustainable environment, bringing the sustainable technologies into the market. And the last not least, the Family Policy Institute, Doha International Family Institute, that's responsible about pushing the boundaries to ensure we preserve the families are the core of the society. And this is something that we believe in Qatar. And anyone who visited Qatar will know we are one of the unique family-friendly city for tourism, for education, for trade, for etc. Because like the leadership of Qatar and the community of Qatar, they strongly believe into the family. And going to the National Development Strategy and Qatar National Vision. The government of Qatar highly inspired by the model that has been created by Qatar Foundation. And in 2008, Qatar was one of the first Gulf countries and Arab countries where they work into develop and define the national vision of transforming Qatar from a hydrocarbon economy to a knowledge-based economy. And this transformation happened into four pillars: human development that include education, health, and labors, and social development when it's focused on the social family cohesion and the social development, the economic development, which is diversifying our economy from a hydrocarbon economy to a knowledge-based economy, and the last not least, the environment development, which is it's very important for us. We need to develop our economy, but our economy shouldn't harm our environment. We need our economy to build our environment as well. So that's why any procedure and intervention that has been defined by the government has been balanced those two elements. But also, while we are diversifying our economy, transforming the entire Qatar, the most important things, how could we balance the modernity with to be rooted? Because we don't want our identity to be lost with this transformation. We didn't want our heritage to be forgotten. That's why this element is in the heart of everything that we do. In Qatar, we are a small nation and we are one of young nation, and we are proud about that. And we never like felt less comparing with the others or etc. because we believe like we need to be confident enough to believe in ourselves, but also we need to be humble enough to think beyond ourselves. And that's why here in Qatar, like we are proud about those small nations, and this small nation, it has been transformed from a traditional society to become a knowledge-based society through the investment that has been put in place in education and research, development, etc. So this is everything about Qatar Foundation and about Qatar National Vision.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Habes. I like how you went through the various pillars of the work of Qatar Foundation. And I think you've answered most of the questions already. I think one of the points that I'm going to ask, and this is something you mentioned earlier in your speech, is that the state of Qatar cares a lot about young leaders. I mean, your current emir got into power at 33 years old. That's one of the youngest ever in the world, right? So what role? Yeah, okay, go on.
To correct that, his
Yeah.
father as well, when he became the emir, he was
Yeah.
too young as well.
Oh,
So it
wow.
wasn't like just for the current emir. Even
Yeah.
his father was a young emir in Qatar.
Emir
So
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the good things like with the leadership of Qatar, like they believe in their role and duty as the president, but the most important thing is how they transform the power from one emir to the other emir. So both of His Highness, they are lived. So His Highness, the father emir, he planted the seed of the development. And after 18 years of his presidential, he moved the power to his son, Sheikh Tamim, our His Highness. And His Highness, the father emir, now he's seeing how his son take Qatar from what he developed like 20 years ago and now move into a new stage.
Yeah, and so the question I want to ask is, are there young leaders like you that are working not just in Qatar Foundation, but are also working across private sector? In what way is Qatar using young leaders to move the national vision forward? Yeah.
Okay. So let me to give you one status that's important about the youth development here in Qatar.
Yeah.
In Qatar, 70% from our population below 30 years old. So the majority of the population in Qatar in the school age and the university age. So and this is where you will start seeing a lot of like young leaders across different sectors. And they are young in terms of age, but they are highly skilled in terms of like the investment that has been made from the government. The government and the leadership of Qatar, because they believe in the youth empowerment and the youth development, they emphasize on the quality of education. Because the quality of education will build your capabilities and your capacities, no matter which industry that you went through. And if you will start seeing the different sectors in Qatar and the different institutions in Qatar, you will start Qatar like have the youngest emir, president, who's lead the Qatar, but also you will see the youngest prime minister, youngest ministers, and the unique things with Qatar on the last and that like few years ago, or when His Highness the Sheikh Tamim, he was gaining the power and he became the Emir of Qatar in 2013, the entire government, like all ministers in Qatar, they are PhD holders in their specific area. Because also this something the government, they believe in, which is the leadership of Qatar believe in education and believe in the quality of education. So that's why they, okay. So they believe in education. They believe, so that's why they are leading by example and everything that you will start seeing. And also His Highness Sheikh Tamim created one of the centers that's responsible about building the capacity of the next leaders. It's called Qatar Leadership Center. And also I am proud to be an alumni of Qatar Leadership Centers, where they are invested heavily on us. And also this center provided the best executive education from Harvard, Stanford, from Oxford, Cambridge, from the best university worldwide to offer us specific executive education that related to the component that's needed for the Qatari leadership in terms of a strategy, in terms of like the finance element, in terms of like being innovative, responsible, leading high impact teams.
Amazing. That's actually really, really good to know. So I have two last questions, and then we'll take a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll let you go. So the next question I have is, what role, because I know the state of Qatar was really, really like passionate about getting the World Cup bid, making sure that the country hosts the World Cup. And so what's role in context of the national vision, what role did the World Cup really play for Qatar in exposing Qatar to the world, telling your story, etc., etc.? You know, so what role did the World Cup play? Yeah.
First of all, when Qatar was applying for and bidding for the World Cup, seeing the World Cup came to the MENA region was something is impossible, and no one was envisioning it. And when the leadership of Qatar was very keen of like bringing the World Cup here in Qatar for multiple purposes, when to give the youth, not in Qatar only, across MENA region, everything is possible. So to push the boundaries of the youth to dream big and to fulfill their dreams. The second things, our region has been transformed significantly, but unfortunately, the brand of MENA region is strong. So whatever is happening in the MENA region, everyone is assuming that happened in the GCC country. And the GCC country is more advanced compared like the other Arab countries. And so it was a marketing campaign for Qatar, but also for the entire region. Also, the entire world has been exposed to our culture, to our identity, to our heritage, which is unfortunately most of the time through the media, through everything that has been pushed about our region. It's not true. Until the people came to Qatar and attend the World Cup and they saw the advancement that happened in Qatar, how we are traditional society, but we are welcoming society. We are not closed-minded. How Qatar, the Bedouin society 30 years ago, transformed into one of the most advanced society worldwide. And now we are proud in Qatar, some of the policy and procedures, some of the institutions, some of the project initiatives that has been taking place in Qatar 30 years ago, ahead of time compared to the other large advanced economy worldwide. And that it shows like how the power of the small state become an example for the large states and the other small states to follow our steps.
Amazing. I think that's a powerful quote, you know, to see how Qatar is even setting the pace, not just for the Gulf region and the MENA region, but also for even advanced countries like the US and countries in Europe. My final question is, now that you know about the work that we're doing with the Rivers 2050 vision, and I've given you like a background of what's happening in the States and how youth are trying to drive this vision. From your experience working on the Qatar National Vision, what advice do you have for us as a team, as a group of young people who are really passionate about this, on how we can make sure that this is a successful project?
The first advice that I would like to give to you, believe in yourself. No matter what kind of challenge that you will say, still believe in yourself. Nothing in this life is impossible. Everything is possible when you believe in yourself. The second element, I will highly encourage the youth in general in your countries to learn more. Learn through books that you will read. Learn through the university that you will enroll in. Learn through the technologies that we have in our hands, like from YouTube, from internet, from TikTok, from any kind of platform. Learn. Ensure like you expand your horizon in terms of like the access of knowledge. And the second things, I will encourage the youth to start focusing on what do you have versus not what you don't have, in terms of like what is the unique things with the river estates. Focusing if you have like the environment, try to work on it to develop it further to ensure this will become one of the sectors that will provide you a value proposition for your economy, for your society, for your development. Work hand by hand as youth to build on each other's, which is some of you might be specialized in health, some of you specialize in education, some of you specialize in sustainability. Now we are living into interdisciplinary world where every kind of knowledge is a matter. And that's why I would like each one of you put your hand in your brother and sister hand and work in your countries, develop it. And the development in general, not the economy, not the society, it will require times. So also you need to be patient of your development. But no matter what kind of challenge you will face, believe in yourself and believe of what you are stand for. In my region, in my country is Qatar. Maybe you heard about it, maybe you are not. Qatar, through our development, we hit with different challenges in this region. We has been blockaded by our neighboring countries a few years ago. And we went from this blockade to become stronger than what we were in the past. We hit by COVID. And through COVID, we become more resilient and we push the boundaries of like from fighting one pandemic to start having the healthy society where everything has been transformed. And also when the World Cup came and the entire challenge that we faced from the international media, we continue with our dream and we show the entire world who we are. You shouldn't like, don't be distracted from what the other will say about you. Focus of what you want and walk the talk and show the people who you are through your action, not through speeches or like responding to them, and let your work to respond in your behalf. This is, I think, the advice that I will give as Habes to the other youth in your countries.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Habes. This is really, really insightful. We'll just open the mic now, just before you leave. We'll take a couple of questions from the audience, as people have, I can see a couple of hands up. Kenny had signified earlier. Kenny, are you able to mute? Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you so much, Eben. I hope you can hear me okay. I was great, submission and conclusion. But I think what particularly stood out for me in your presentation and thoughts was the power of education to help develop Qatar. Like there was strong emphasis on, like the Qatar Foundation, even the first project happens to be an educational project. But I cannot help also not to imagine the infrastructural development that have gone over the years. Now, as a nation in Nigeria, most other countries, particularly in Africa, there's usually this strong coalition. Should we invest in infrastructure or in education? Now, education tends to give a long-term investment for the most part, while infrastructure also maybe long-term, but at least more short-term than education. So how did you bridge this divide like this in Qatar? I would love to learn from your approach. How do you ensure that infrastructure is not halted, and yet this massive investment in education to transform the future also maintains, particularly working on a limited budget? We'd like to learn from your insights and as we develop this Rivers 2050.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much for your questions. And this is one of the things that everyone was asking for, like, should we focus on the human development or the infrastructure development? And believe me, like maybe in the vast pre-COVID, I will have different answer. Because like pre-COVID, like we invested heavily in the infrastructures and into world-class facilities all over the world, all over the countries. But when COVID hit and everyone was stay at home, like we felt, does the infrastructure is needed that much? And this it showed me not in the like in the Qatar context, but also in different countries. If you will heard about the development that happened in the past in Iraq, what make Iraq was a great example of Arab countries. Iraq was invested heavily in education. And no matter any war that will be hit Iraq, Iraq will stand stronger than before because the human resources, the sustainable resources. And that's why I would encourage you like to have this balance. Sometimes we need the infrastructure to activate our economy and to ensure like our economy will generate revenue. But the most important things, believe in me, my colleagues, the education will open more pathway for you wasn't envisioned, which is if one of the youth will study the genomes or like several youth will study the genomes, The genomes might sound in Nigeria something as futuristic because you are focusing on developing your healthcare, etc. But you cannot imagine how those people might bridge the gap between the past and the future. And you don't need to live in the present because they will transform the healthcare, they will transform multiple things happen with the society. So my advice is balancing both, but I will emphasize more on the education investment. And I hope I answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Habes. Udokama, do you want to ask your question? I can see that Nnameka has his questions in the chat. I'll read that shortly, but let's have Udokama and Chibodom ask their questions.
You are muted.
Yes. Let me give Udokama the mic to ask her question. Yeah. Can also see Chibudom's hand as well. Chibudom, I've also given you the mic as well. Asked you to unmute so that you can ask your question. While we wait for both of them, so the question in the chat. So someone's asking, you mentioned building.
Hello.
Chibudom, okay. Just give me a sec. Let me ask this question from Nnameka, and then after that we'll come to you. And Nnameka is asking, you mentioned building the students to align with the vision. How were you able to do this? And I think it's speaking more about like how were you able to align young people's work and stuff with the national vision. And then he has a second question. So I'll just ask both of them so you can answer them together. Second question is, how does Qatar also how is funding for research and development derived? Is this funding gotten from governments or is it also like independence?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
First of all, let me to begin like with the first questions of how we align. First of all, there is an element that should be led by the government, not led by the society, which is because the government, they are financing the higher education here in Qatar. They created different programs that related to the national development in Qatar to ensure the student who will study medicine, will study engineering, will study education, will study other discipline. This program has been designed to fit the need of the development of Qatar, whether if it's education development, social development, economic development, or etc. So those pathway has been integrated. But what also we introduced as Qatar Foundation, we created a center called Qatar Career Development Center, where we created a lot of career awareness and career counseling to educate the student into K-12, what the discipline that we recommend you to study, but also how your capabilities and your interests link with these subjects to ensure you could study something that you are truly passionate about and also will bring revenue out of this education to you to ensure you will have like sustainable jobs. And this is how the education system has been built. For the research and development, in the beginning, the state of Qatar was pledged 2.8 from the government's revenue on an annual base to the Qatar National Research Fund, which is the funding agency that's responsible about financing all the research activities. But in a later stage, we start because the government, they decided to be the champion for the research and development until the people to start seeing the outcomes of the research. And then you start seeing the private sector, they start allocating certain budget for the research and development because they saw how the research and development transformed their industry. And also, we built a strategic partnership with the different ministries, public sector, private sector, NGOs, etc., to ensure we are pushing more funds for the research activities. So now we have more diverse investment that has been allocated for research and development and innovation. But still, we are hoping for more funds to go to the research and development. So what we have now is good to have now, but our aim to push it further.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll take the final question. Chibudom, you want to ask your question and then, or are you muted? Yeah.
I can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Mr. Habes Howail, sorry for I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you very much for this speech you've given us. It was very insightful. So I have basically two questions. My first question is based on the concept, this whole concept of the education city. How does this work exactly? Is it like the education city is a university of its own, or and there's like a confederacy, I don't know, of different universities, or just simply a place where different universities have their campus? And then my second question is on the access to this university, because I don't know. I wonder if how accessible is it to everyone in Qatar? Is it that anybody, no matter how rich or poor you are able to get education, or does it tend to be more, I don't know, is it expensive and so more for people who can afford the high school fees? I just want to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. Regarding your first question about the education city is a city like any other cities. Has been like 6 American university next to each others, the national libraries, the 13 schools. Like, you feel it's a city, and you could see a lot of videos and images from the education city to envision it. So everything is close to each other. It has been developed in a walkable city, and also the city has been having a tram system that connecting the people to ensure we have a smooth mobility from one campus, one building to the others. And it has been designed in a unique way to become a livable city where you could walk, you could study, you could entertain, you could do multiple things in the same city campus. The second element, which is about your education, about how the education is accessible. So for any citizen in Qatar, the Qatari citizen, the government provide a national scholarship for the student who accepted in the higher education in the university that has been based on Education City or the other university based in Qatar. We have more than 34 universities based in Qatar, between national university, international universities. And also the scholarship could provide access for youth such as like me, studying abroad to do my PhD at London on economics of higher education. So the higher education is accessible, but it required the student effort. You need to work hard on yourself to be accepted in this one university, and then you will be guaranteed the scholarship. But I would like to highlight one thing that more interested to you or more relevant to you. Within the education city, I mentioned to you there is a 25% from our student population, they are from all over the world. Youth like you, from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from South America, from North America, from Canada, Australia. So the outstanding student who apply for the education city on some of these universities will receive either financial aid, scholarship, or a grant from Qatar Foundation, depending on the program that you offer. Because our belief here in Education City, how could we make the education accessible, especially to the youth from low and middle income country, to ensure the effort, the national effort and the governmental effort from Qatar to the global community will be done through the education. And this is one of the things that I would highly recommend you to visit the website of Qatar Foundation, which is www.qf.org.qa, where you could know more about the Education City, the program. And if you are interested in one of these programs from undergraduate to postdoctoral, you could apply for it, and you could check the funding mechanism for applicants, students like you who are interested to study in Qatar, and choose the program that's related to your home country. And I hope I cover your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Habes. Chibudom, I hope the question was covered. I can see Udo's hand is back up. Udo, do you want to ask your question? I've asked you to unmute. Let's just take that quickly as the final question so that we can let Habes go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope that you can hear me okay.
Yes, we.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you, Mr. Habes, for this entire session. There's just so much to learn, But my question, I guess, to round this up is around how, I mean, as young people trying to, see how this project is quite successful. I wanted to ask particularly around how we could avoid a possibility of something that maybe I'd like to tag a vision fatigue, where, I mean, we're having like a multi-decade project, and from our own side, would have multiple governments coming, serve, leave office, and so on and so forth. So how do you think that we can avoid losing the interest of the public in following through with this entire vision, from now till, different governments come and go, decades will come and go? How do you think we can avoid maybe growing weary, being tired? I mean, just now that we're starting, the vision looks grand, we're excited about it, everyone that we're speaking to is excited to plug in, but at some point, maybe it's just a fear, I would say, but in reality, we believe that it's something that we'll experience going into like the coming 5 years, 10 years and whatnot. How can we avoid this?
So what I recommend you here, like as a student who study the international development, and I will speak here as Habes. I will not represent my institution or my state, just like I will speak youth to youth. So what I will highly recommend you of as youth, you need to advocate for what is good for you, not as individually, but collectively. Because we know how the leadership has been changed from time to time, the election, etc. But think about any project that will be citizen-led project, whether if it's education or health or etc. And I would like you as youth to focus on what you have in your hand and how could you improve it and how could you develop it, no matter how the government has changed. Because that's why I don't want you to be distracted by any change that happen around you. I know sometimes it's effect, and sometimes it's effect positively or negatively. Let us to speak frankly. But the most important thing, if you will focus yourself and your peers, and you will advocate for quality of education, quality of health, the component that is needed for your society, not for current need, but also for the future need. And here where any leadership will came to the power will realize no matter what their personal agenda or presidential agenda, it must to be aligned with the societal agenda. And how this will be affected, you have the right to choose. You have your vote for any president. And the president who will came with the right promises to fulfill your needs, your interests, this is the person what you need to push for your vote for. But also focus on different roles, not necessarily governmental, which is the societal level, the civil society. What is expected from the civil society in the development? Think about how the civil society could play a role. And also think about another element that is very important. How many your citizen who live abroad, either they are working in different university, different places, how you will engage with them to ensure you bring them back, not necessarily individually, but their knowledge, their insight, their contributions to the development of your countries. And one of the good things, I think we did it successfully here in Qatar, we didn't have a brain drain in Qatar. We are lucky. But there is a brain drain that happened in the entire region, like our region as a MENA region. And in 2005, both of His Highness and Her Highness, they created a national dialogue where we reach out to 700 Arab scientists and scholars who live in the United States of America, in Europe, Canada, Australia, to ensure how could we bring them back. And also we engage with them. For those who's not interested to back to the region, how could we build bridges between them and the region in terms of some of those scientists study or they are faculty on Imperial. Could they become the supervisor for students from your countries in a specific region? Could they offer mentorship? Could they offer different things that will enhance and accelerate the potential of your countries. And I hope I addressed your question.
Thank you, Habes. Thank you so much for the time you've given to us. I know it's almost 6 p.m., almost 6:30 p.m. there. But thank you so much. We really appreciate this. This has been a lot of useful knowledge. I'll hand over now to Onyeka Sola, who's been the rapporteur as a member. She's a member of the task force as well, to just give her closing reflections based on the points that you've given to summarize, and then we're going to close today's town hall. So over to you, Oyin. Let me give you the mic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Eben, and thank you, Habes. It's difficult to even say one particular thing is a key takeaway because everything was just like a punchline, a lot of profound things that you shared with us, and thank you again. But just to reflect on a couple of points you had raised, I know you emphasized a lot on deliberateness and intentionality. And I love the point you highlighted about government taking the lead, especially as regards R&D. And then you said to us that when the private sector sees how the R&D outputs directly feed into their industries, it gives them like the incentive, to be a part of it. And I think that's really profound. It's something to take home. And then you, of course, hammered a lot on context-specific education and youth development. You said to us that investment in education must align with national development priorities, and that's something I know we would take with us. And then you also highlighted collaboration. I think that's something that we really need to take with us. A lot of collaboration is important for us to, achieve more broad-based development rather than focusing on our individual, for want of a better word, agendas or things I would like to achieve, but look at what is collectively good for the common good. I think that's very important to highlight. And then, less talk and more action. A lot of talking has been done in the past. A lot of talking is still being done, but more importantly, taking action, believing in ourselves, and, just knowing that when we come together as young people and look for opportunities that can harness our individual strengths for the collective good, that really just creates the change that we want to see. So thank you so much for taking your time to be with us this evening. So before I hand over the mic back to Eben, I'll just like to also highlight that our next town hall would be on May 31st, 2025. I think that's next Saturday, if I'm correct. Yes, and I'm not from Rivers State, but I'm very invested in this project. And I can't even wait to listen to someone who was, the first governor of Rivers State. I can imagine that he has a lot of institutional memory that he would, be able to share with us. So for those that haven't registered, please do well to register and please spread the news that we still have this town hall coming up. And it's also interesting because it aligns with Rivers at 58. And that's something that is, I think is quite profound. It's something I would want to, even hear from what has happened so far, knowing that there's only been one development plan since 1975, I think. So it'd be interesting to hear what His Majesty has to say. So please ensure that you register and then spread the news as well. And then on our survey, lastly, we're still seeking input. So please, if you haven't, you can scan the QR code and then fill in the survey. And then you can also share with friends, people who are in the diaspora, indigenes, non-indigenes, residents in Rivers State. Please just spread the news. We need to get as many inputs as we can. I think it would make our vision more robust. Don't forget, we're talking about collaboration. So it's very, very important to do that. So thank you again. Thank you, Habes. And then I'll hand over the e-mic to Eben. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Oye. I can see Habes' hand is up. Do you want to say something before we close the town hall? I think I have to ask you to unmute, yes. Okay.
Yeah, please. So first of all, I would like to thank you again for your commitment to attend today, which is to me, this is the start point, how you are committed to do something meaningful for your home countries. The second element, and I will close with that, please, 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 from youth to youth, create the best story of Rivers State. Be the champion for this story. How We did it in Qatar. I think you could do it, and you must do it in your home country. So I will push you hardly to write your story, not individually, but collectively as a state. And thank you so much for your time, for your listening. And it was my pleasure to be with you. And I hope I didn't take more time from your time on Saturday. And it was an excitement moment for me to talk to you, to listen to you, and beyond that, to be connected with you. Whenever you are interested, you have questions in your mind, feel free to reach out to me through the LinkedIn. I think your colleagues tagged my account on the LinkedIn page. So feel free to reach out to me whenever you have a question in your mind, and I would be happy to support whenever it's needed. Thank you so much, and hope to see you, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Habes, and thank you everyone for such a wonderful town hall and such a kickoff to our key informal interviews. See you next Saturday for our next conversation with His Majesty. All right, everyone. Thank you. Bye.